They leather jacket cause I think I'm bad. That's cool, I like it. The growth, the light, the pain, the fight. We love, we fight, we hurt, we cry. He paid the price, you'll be alright. They gave me some time away. I took a little time. I'll pray, we gon' be alright. Okay, alright, okay, alright, okay, alright. They gave me some time away. I took a little time. I'll pray, we gon' be alright. Okay, alright, okay.
Hello. Thank you all so much for joining us for our final hiring summit panel, LinkedIn and Beyond Online Strategies for Early Career Job Seekers. My name is Rola Emanuel, and I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the mentoring core manager at Girls Who Code. Today, we will hear from an exciting panel of speakers who will share their insights and tips for expanding your network online. In just a moment, I will introduce the panelists. If you have a question for them, you can drop it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your window, as we will try to save time for audience Q&A. Also, please note that closed captioning is enabled. If you would like subtitles, you can click on the live transcript / show subtitles button at the bottom of your window to turn them on. Okay, so now that our logistics are out of the way, let's meet our panelists. First up, we have Morgan Young. Morgan is a senior studying computer science and engineering at the University of Nevada, Reno, pursuing a career in product management. She has previously interned at the Walt Disney Company 6 times as a product manager, worked at 3 startups, and is currently a venture capital fellow at New Enterprise Associates. Outside of her work and studies, Morgan creates and shares content about college, early careers, and Gen Zs in the workforce in her LinkedIn and through her newsletter. In her free time, she figure skates, dances, tumbles, and enjoys time with her friends. Next up, we have Mara Hart. Mara is a software engineer at Microsoft and an alumna of the University of Virginia School of Engineering. She empowers others to code by creating a mentorship program such as Microsoft's first women-centric intern empowerment program and teaching at organizations like Code with Clossy and Black Girls Code. Mara is also the founder of Girls Who Code UVA chapter. Next up, we have Sierra Stevens. Sierra Stevens currently serves as the Student Programs Manager for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. In her role, she is responsible for seeking out and recruiting students and recent graduates into various internship programs and entry-level positions. Sierra holds a bachelor's degree in human resources management from the University of Maryland Global Campus and serves as a reservist in the United States Air Force. Outside of work, she enjoys traveling, spending time with her family, and listening to K-pop while collecting perfume. Our next panelist, Serena Wallace. Serena is a seasoned professional with a background in the workforce development, higher education, and partnership development. Currently, as the Senior Director for National Placement at NPower, she curates corporate partnerships to leverage career opportunities for under-resourced young adults and military personnel entering the tech and digital workforce. Serena's background includes serving as the Director of Career and Professional Development at Livingstone College, where she supported minority first-generation college students. She has a myriad of career development expertise in the field of academia, and with some of her impactful work being employers like the City of Hartford, Capital Workforce Partners, and the Urban League of Greater Hartford. Our next panelist is Priscilla Afaro Barantes. Priscilla holds a PhD from Florida State University. She is currently the campus programs lead for RTX Corporate. Outside of work, she enjoys hiking, traveling with her 2 sons. Thank you all so much for joining us. Let's jump into our discussion. So our first discussion question that we have is regarding building a strong profile. In today's digital age, an online presence is increasingly crucial for job seekers. How can early career tech professionals tailor their LinkedIn profiles to align with the expectations of recruiters and hiring managers?
Take a stab at that first. Good afternoon, everyone. One of the things that job seekers can do to increase the visibility from recruiters, specifically on LinkedIn, is to make sure that your digital footprint is already out there and positive by way of when someone looks you up online, those positive publications, appropriate social media handles, and also your LinkedIn page will be one of the first things that prospective employers will see. I'd also add that with regard to LinkedIn, connecting and growing your recruiter network, you want to ensure that your LinkedIn photo is intact with a professional headshot, as well as your LinkedIn taglines. There will always be about 1 or 2 lines after your name, and those taglines is what captivates the attention for people to want to see a little bit more about your digital resume online.
And just to follow up, are there specific keywords, projects, or achievements that job seekers should include on their profiles to make them a little bit more attractive to potential employers?
I can share as a recruiter, early career recruiter, when I look at somebody's profile, LinkedIn profile, it is important for me to be able to do that fast and quick. So how do you, as a potential candidate, want to be perceived? What is your personal brand? Because sometimes I look at early career professional LinkedIn and I see so much in there that I'm not sure if they are a software developer or maybe they want to be in cybersecurity. I cannot figure it out. So you have to be the owner of your own story. You have to tell the recruiter who you are, how you're viewed. And LinkedIn and your resume are a tool to say that. You have to decide how you want to be perceived. You should not allow the recruiter to guess how you are a good fit. So the keywords, okay, if you want to work in cybersecurity, then you're gonna use that lingo. If you want to work in software development, then that is what it should be there. You know, you don't, as a recruiter, I really have 30 seconds, maybe a minute to look at your LinkedIn profile and make a decision if I should reach out to you or not. So you need to make sure that, you know, you catch that attention using those words. So you are the owner of your story. You decide how we should perceive you. Don't leave any room for us to guess, right? You are the one who have to tell the story.
I can also take another stab at both of the original question and the follow-up question. I'm not obviously coming from the recruiter side. I'm way closer to the job seeker side, considering that I'm still in college. But I actually got my very first interview for an internship as a freshman. I didn't apply for it. The recruiter had actually reached out to me. And the way that I'd kind of gone about my LinkedIn profile is, first of all, I filled out every section, which is a lot of people find hard to do when you're young because you feel like you haven't done a lot. But if you're here in this webinar, you've probably done a Girls Who Code program. That counts for something. That was actually probably what helped get me most of my interviews freshman year, since I had no other relevant experience otherwise. But that's the key word, right? It's relevant experience. Not everyone is going to leave high school with 4 internships, even though I do know people that have. But likely, like I said, if you're here, you've probably done a Girls Who Code program, and that counts for something. So make sure your profile is like complete. Like, try not to leave like sections blank. And I would say like a really important thing, and maybe the people who work in recruitment here can speak to this. I've talked to a couple of recruiters, and the way that they use like LinkedIn search, keywords are a really big part of it. And so I was recruiting for software engineering internships, and those words and those keywords were splashed all over my profile. So I think it made it a lot easier for the recruiter just to find me in general. Like, you obviously want to make a good impression when they see it, but you also have to get them to see it to begin with. When you're starting out with very little visibility, you have to make sure that they can just find you to begin with.
Thank you so much. And that kind of, oh, I'm sorry.
I also want to say, sorry.
I was going to say, because I have another question that you might be able to loop in your answer to. But the question was, what are some of the common mistakes that people make in their profiles and how can these be avoided?
Yeah, I think my thing does kind of tie into that. So one thing that I see a lot of college students doing is they're just like, oh, like experience, I don't have a job, and they just stop right there. And just kind of like go a little bit farther on the thing like Morgan's talking about, like clubs and things like that, especially if you've helped organize events or you're involved more than just like a simple meeting. Honestly, even if you do just like show up to the meetings, include that. Like, what does it hurt? If it's not relevant, they'll ignore it, but don't reject yourself before they have a chance to reject you. Your job as, a person is to always advocate for yourself. You need to be putting your best foot forward and have all the confidence you can, so that way when someone else sees you, they're like, oh my goodness, of course this person is the best fit. They have all these things that they just told me, and I don't have to like go poke at it and go even further, because chances are they don't know to do that and they don't have the time to do that.
And I just want to,
Oh, go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add on to what Mara said. Don't sell yourself short. And like she said, with clubs, like even what's it called? Oh Lord, I'm getting a brain fart. Even volunteer work. Any volunteer work that you do, put that on your profile, because you never know whose eye that may catch.
Okay, and then the next question I have are around networking. LinkedIn is a powerful networking tool. Can you provide some examples of successful online networking strategies and how candidates can connect with tech recruiters? I also would like to wrap in an audience question that was, what is the best way to approach a recruiter over a position that's posted on LinkedIn if they're not tagged in the job? So feel free to answer both.
I can take a couple stabs at that. So as far as like answering the audience question first about like how do you approach a recruiter when their name isn't necessarily mentioned. So it can be a little tough because like I'm friends with a lot of recruiters and they get a lot of messages every single day. It's really difficult for them to see everything. So to catch their attention, number one, you have to be short. Right. First of all, if you're sending like an in-mail, so like if it's not like you only get like a certain number of characters when you're connecting with a recruiter. So you're limited in what you can say. So you have to be concise. That's first. Second, you have to be very specific. One of the biggest pet peeves that I know that recruiters have is saying like something very vague, like, can I pick your brain or can I hear your thoughts or things like that? Because it doesn't actually give them an idea of what you're approaching them for. And it's also very frustrating to them because they don't know how they can help you. So be concise, be specific, be respectful and polite, and don't take it personally if they can't get back to you, because again, recruiters do get a lot of messages. Just in general, networking on LinkedIn, it's kind of good to employ the same strategy of, remember, when you're connecting with people that seem to have a lot of connections or followers, they may not see it. So be considerate of them and their time, but also just be polite and be nice. I think that goes a lot further than people think it does. And also approach networking with the idea, not the idea like, oh, how can I get a referral from this person and what can they do for me? Networking is all about forming quality, like relationships that have depth, not shallow relationships where you have a transaction one time and that's the end of the relationship. That's not the point of networking. The point of networking is to have colleagues and coworkers and friends. And I've actually met some of my friends on LinkedIn. And the way to do that is, again, don't go straight for the referral. Don't go straight for the, how can you help me get a job? And instead think, how can you provide value to them? How can you be of help and support to them? That to me has been a super successful networking strategy, because most people are not expecting me to say, how can I help support or do anything that you need from me of value? How can I provide it? Most people aren't expecting that. So do the unexpected thing and you'll probably get a response.
And I love that you just said all of that, Morgan. That is a shared sentiment. With LinkedIn, oftentimes, if you are not the first or second generation connection to a prospective person online, then you have to send that email, which means you have to pay to even communicate with them. The best LinkedIn strategy to connect with prospective recruiters, hiring managers, is really to grow your personal and professional network on there. The second you send an invite to someone and become a LinkedIn connection, that means that all of their first and second generation connections now are in your network, which means there's a higher likelihood for you to make that connection with them and make sure that it's one of deeper quality that Morgan just spoke about. I will also say that a missed opportunity is using a digital business card. When you are meeting people in person somewhere, we're in the digital age and the technology age. If you can just flash your cell phone and there's a link or a QR code that directly links your body of work right to that LinkedIn profile, it makes it so much easier.
Thank you. And then our last question is, how can job seekers leverage online communities to gain insights and potential job opportunities?
I think as someone who's been involved in like a lot of different organizations, and kind of ties in the last thing with LinkedIn, is if you are in an organization and you see someone else is in that same organization, like for me personally, if someone's like, oh, I did Code with Flossie, I did Girls Who Code, I'm like much more likely to want to connect with them because I do feel some kind of personal connection, some kind of shared experience. And so being in those communities and then connecting with people on LinkedIn, you can kind of go a little bit further. But also oftentimes those organizations tend to have, their own kind of community spaces. So Girls Who Code, they have their high school clubs, their college loops, events like these, where you can just kind of meet people, see, who fits your vibe the most, who do you think like would be a really valuable resource to, and like Morgan was talking about, who could you be a really valuable resource to as well. I think some of my favorite organizations that are pretty like broad, definitely Girls Who Code, as I'm sure we all love. And then also I was recently a coach for 3 years at Major League Hacking, and that's a global community. It's not, it's not Girls Who Code is open to like their target demographic is just beginner hackers. And the community there is super, super supportive. So, and a lot of it's online and virtual, which is perfect in this day and age.
To piggyback onto what Mara said, I'm also a Girls Who Code and a KWK alum, so I am really big fans of those communities as well. And I think she actually made a really good point as far as online communities, they're definitely out there. I'm part of several. I'm part of 2 product management communities. One's called Product Buzz, one's called Product Haven, and they have some great information in them, but they can be a little hard to find unless you're like consistently prowling those communities and actively looking for it. So one of the best ways, in my opinion, to start kind of like edging into the online community space is through in-person groups, organizations, and activities that take the interaction online. So other than Girls Who Code and Code with Flossie, I have met so many friends and so many of my colleagues from the Grace Hopper celebration, which takes place in person, but then we all connect afterward online. And also Harvard We Code, same thing, in-person conference, we all connect afterward online. So, I mean, just be actively searching for communities that resonate with you, whether that's women in tech, women in STEM, product management, project management, software development, cybersecurity. They're out there. A good start is to start going to in-person events. And believe me, people want to help you. So people will start telling you about these communities. And then once you've kind of mastered like in-person events and in-person communities, you'll find yourself in a lot of those online communities.
Thank you. And then so now we're going to switch over to some of the Q&As that came in. We have about 10 minutes left for these questions. So the first question I want to ask is kind of back to building our profiles. What would you advise that the work experience description be? Should it be exactly the same on the resume as on the LinkedIn? Should it match the job description verbatim? What are some of your advice on that topic?
I can share that from an RTX perspective, because I saw this question coming in too. How do we know what are the keywords, right? And so when you look at an internship posting or an early career job, you want to make sure that you read at the first, and again, this applies to RTX. I don't know if it applies to other companies, but in RTX, you have to look at the first 3 bullets. Those in the job description responsibilities, primary responsibilities, And those are going to be the most important ones that we're going to be paying attention to. Now, when you see preferred, right there, it is preferred. So if you have it or is something, you did something similar, you want to use those words on your resume. So it doesn't have to be the exact job description, but it has to be very close. You want to use the words in the preferred if you have it, if it's not in the first 3 bullets. And then if you, at the beginning of your resume, a lot of early career candidates I see, they include a summary this big. Don't do that. Add something that is like career highlights or highlights, and then you have 3 or 4 bullets with those keywords. So whatever you notice in those like first 3 bullets, then you want to add those in those keyword in those highlights at the top of your resume under your name. Because if I'm looking for somebody in data analytics, and then the first bullet says, excellent or experience in data analytics, and your first highlight bullet on your resume says that, then I'm going to take a look at what is coming next, right? Again, don't let the recruiter to figure it out. It doesn't have to be verbatim, but by reading the job description, you're going to see words that repeat, and then you're going to be able to see, to understand what they're really looking for. One of the major pet peeves as a recruiter at RTX is that early career professionals don't really read the job description. They just read the job title. So make sure that you're reading the job description. And if you don't have the years of experience, for example, or the required degree or the required GPA, then you most likely not gonna get a call. If you have those minimum requirements, and then you make sure that your resume match what they were looking for in the job description, then there is a high probability that you might get a call.
And should your resume match your LinkedIn profile?
Yes, we do check. And then if your LinkedIn profile is included in your resume, we click on it. And sometimes it says, graduating May 2024, and I check LinkedIn and it said May to 2027. I'm like, what is going on here? Or they might telling me, they add a Girls Who Code alumni, and nowhere in LinkedIn profile it says that. Then that's a red flag. They should align really well.
And Rola, can I just give them a hack? Because I learned this later in my professional career. And I think entry-level job seekers, you will be 3 steps ahead of the game if you have this hack. There is a website entitled JobScan. It is an ATS, if you will, and it allows you to actually plug in your resume and the URL to a specific job, and it provides you with a result of your compatibility. And it's just a great way on a scale 1 to 100. And if you are 75 to 85% compatible with that job, then you have a lot of those keywords that are on there. So look that up. It's not the end all be all, but certainly a strong hack that some of our Empower career placement managers use inside the classroom to ensure that our information technology students are workforce ready.
I think all of that being said, though, your LinkedIn, like specifically like the descriptions under your LinkedIn, which I think was in the question, it doesn't have to match your resume exactly, because also when you think about if you've done several internships, volunteer work projects in your undergraduate career, you probably don't have room to fit it all on your resume. And that's the point that I've gotten to. And when for example, when I went through full-time recruitment this last application season, I had 3 different resumes for 3 different types of jobs I was recruiting for. I was recruiting for consulting jobs, product management jobs, and VC jobs. Not a single one of those resumes looked the same, because I wanted to tailor the experience that I had, that I did have, but I wanted them to focus on certain things. Because, me being an IT service management intern wasn't super relevant to doing VC. So I wanted to change that and, again, make it more tailored. And on top of it, you kind of want your LinkedIn, first of all, to be more comprehensive than a resume, because I've heard the rule of thumb is like 1 page, your resume should be 1 page per 10 years of experience. So I'm staying at the 1 page for now. And you don't want to go past that. Whereas your LinkedIn, you can have everything on there. That's your portfolio of work. That's everything that you've ever done. I have everything I've ever done on my LinkedIn, but I don't have everything I've ever done on my resume. So they don't always have to match to a T. I mean, like Priscilla said, make sure that things are checking out, but you don't have to make your resume match your LinkedIn perfectly, depending on what point you are in your career and depending on what kind of jobs you're recruiting for and what experience you feel is relevant to that job.
Thank you so much.
And can I hop in real quick? And so I just wanted to throw out there, so I'm in the federal government with CISA. So your federal resume, if you're looking to get on in the federal side, your federal resume will differ from private sector resume. So we get resumes anywhere between 2 to 5 pages because we really want you to explain your experience. So our resumes can get pretty long. For example, if you're laying out, if you have a bullet for, a line of experience, you're going to say what you did, how you did it, and what's the impact. So that can be a 3 sentence bullet for that line of experience. So don't limit yourself if you're trying to get a federal job. Don't limit yourself to 1 page because you might not be selling yourself the way you think you are.
Mara, I know you had something to add, but we are running short on time, and I wanted to jump into one last question that they had. It's actually 2 questions in one. The first one was like, what are some good questions to ask when networking? But then the second one was, how do you provide value or offer help to recruiters as a new graduate, possibly with limited experience? And that was in reference to building a connection with the recruiters and not just asking what they can do for you.
I'll take a stab at the second question because I think that might have been directed at something that I said. It's a really good question because a lot of people feel like you don't have any value to add when you're early career, when you haven't really done a lot yet. The answer is it's intrinsic. I think we are in a world now where we are so conditioned to think that the only value we have to offer comes from list items off of our resume. As a person who's lived your life with your background and your experiences, you are unique and you have a unique perspective. That perspective is valuable. So as far as providing value to a recruiter, this is things that I've done to provide value to a recruiter. First of all, just saying like, hey, if there's any way that you think that I can help, kind of putting the ball in their court. So if they think that there's something that you can help with, then you can help them with that. And something that I've done is for a recruiter, I actually didn't, she was my recruiter for a job I was applying for. I made it all the way to the final round, didn't get the job, but I had a really good experience with her and I knew I wanted to cultivate a relationship moving forward with her. And I asked her, I said, how can I help? How can I support, provide value? Please let me know. And she told me, she said, you can leave a recommendation for me on my LinkedIn. I'm really trying to get better at that. So I did, and I still have a standing relationship with her. So, you don't necessarily have to know how you can provide value because it depends on the situation, but just put the ball in their court. And if they see any way fit that you could help or provide value, make yourself open to that and make sure they know that you're open to helping.
I'd be remiss if I didn't add on to what Morgan just shared and the other panelists. The best practices that we're sharing are just starts, and it is always helpful if you do a skills-based training. If you're not in school, I saw something in the chat about non-traditional talent, and employers are looking to diversify their talent pipelines. And so I would encourage all candidates, but especially the non-traditional talent, to put their resumes out there. Make sure you share your value drivers, what transferable skill sets you have, and apply for the opportunity. Make sure you quantify your success outcomes inside the classroom if you're a college student, and then also in some of your job opportunities if you've already had some. And lastly, I'd say, if you are still wanting a little bit more help, Empower, Girls Who Code, organizations that provide these skills-based talent, tuition-free training for Empower is just a great way. We have a Path to Tech software development and coding program, as well as the other IT opportunities. So it's already built in for career coaching, built in connections to recruiters and employers. So it's also just a fast track to get into the technical workforce in the case that you need that.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for tuning in to our conversation. And thank you to our panelists for dedicating your time and expertise. This will conclude our Hybrid Summit panels, but if you return to the auditorium for closing remarks, thank you all so much for being with us and have a great evening.